I'm Jeff Maris from WisPolitics.com. And I want to welcome you to today's virtual event where we're going to be previewing the top state Senate races in Wisconsin. First off, though, I wanted to tell you about some upcoming events. We have two DC events, virtual, of course, because that's the way we do things these days. October 22nd, and that's a week from today. We look at the political landscape in the Midwest and DC in Congress with some experts in party politics, people associated with the RNC and the DNC and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. You can find out about that at WisPolitics.com. We'll be also then be doing an event on November 12th. That's also a Thursday. That's going to be the topic there is going to be healthcare with another panel of experts about healthcare, what's going to be the possible changes in healthcare following a big Supreme Court hearing on November 10th and the makeup of the new Congress. But today I want to welcome you to our biennial event where we talk to Senate leaders about the top Senate races. And this year we have Senate President Roger Roth and Senate Dem Minority Leader Janet Bewley. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me just start with you, Senator Roth, the Senate President, the Republican Senate President. What is the political climate in the state right now? Just try to summarize it. And in terms of all that is going on with the challenges to a lot of what Governor Evers is attempting to do in terms of restrictions on activities and the mask mandate. There's been a lot of challenges from the Tavern League, from Will, conservative legal group, and there's been support of the legislative Republicans on that. And Evers has sent various messages that he doesn't like that. So anyway, what is the political climate from your standpoint in terms of all these this battle over the restrictions?
Yeah, I would say that Wisconsin is shaping up to be right now in October before a presidential election. It's behaving a lot like I would expect it and it has done back in 2016 and presidential elections back as long as I can remember. It's highly charged right now out there. And you can just see that in the races. You can see that just knocking on doors. You can see that by watching the literature and the TV ads that are out there. So you can't escape it. I mean, with everything that happens now today, and maybe that's because we're in our homes more and we're on social media more, and everything now has a political angle to it, and it becomes politically charged, and I get that, and it's probably just really an indication of the kind of ever-present communication and so forth that we have in Wisconsin. I can tell you that my position here on all of these issues that are coming forth, COVID-19 is a very serious issue. It is something that, none of us asked for, certainly not the United States or any other country in the world, but something that we were, it came here from other parts of the world. And it's something that we have to deal with. And as policymakers, that really is our job. It's to come up with solutions to problems, and that's what people expect of us. And at the same time, we have to make sure that so if you look at what the governor's doing, if you look at how this has played out since March and where the Republican legislature has been at, I think we've been trying to make sure that the people of Wisconsin not only had the protection that they needed, not working to make sure that our healthcare systems had the supplies and the testing and so forth, but we also wanted to make sure that while we were dealing with the coronavirus and the devastation, obviously, that brings along, that we weren't also at the same time destroying the economy here, destroying small businesses, destroying the livelihoods of mom and pop stores and bars and taverns and restaurants. So all of that is kind of at play right now. And no matter what gets done and what gets suggested, I recognize that because of how politically charged it is, you have your winners and losers on each side of it. But I will tell you, we are working through the process right now. So when it comes to what the governor had done regarding bars and taverns or taverns and restaurants here, that is working through. We convene the JCRAR on Monday, and we have a responsibility when we believe as a legislature that the governor is doing something that should go through the rulemaking process. We have a responsibility to exercise our authority here in the legislature, and that's what's being done. So JCRAR met, and they're now formally requesting that the governor do what we believe the Supreme Court had decided back in May, and that's to he has the ability to make changes in Wisconsin. He has the ability to execute authority, but it has to go through a lawful, legal rulemaking process, and that's going to play itself out. And then on the mask side of things, we believe that we're not involved. This is Will that's bringing this lawsuit. Of course, I know that there are. You can go on probably social media and find different members of ours who are on one side or the other of this, but I will tell you that we just again want to make sure that the governor doesn't exceed his authority. This is not about the mass as much as it is about the legislature having, three co-equal branches of government: the executive, the legislature, and the courts, not going outside of their lane. That's going to work itself out. At the end of the day, though, none of that changes the fact that here we are in the middle of October, and people of Wisconsin, free people of Wisconsin, we're so blessed here in our state and in our country to have freedoms to pretty much chart our own destiny and make decisions about ourselves that many parts of the world don't have. And we've seen that on display just in the handling of the coronavirus in other parts of the world. But with those great freedoms come great responsibilities. And that's why I have been advocating from the beginning to anyone who would listen that those responsibilities that we have, those require that we do right by ourselves, by our friends, by our neighbors. And right now that means wearing a mask. That means socially distancing. That means practicing CDC guidelines. And I think to the extent that we can work together, Republicans and Democrats, the governor and the legislature, to promote that message to the people of Wisconsin, they're smart, they're resilient, they understand, and they will do the right thing.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Senator Bewley, what about the current state of politics in Wisconsin and the whole override of the COVID restrictions and all that is playing out there? What's your view?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. I think this is perhaps the first time for many people to meet me as the minority leader, and it's a pleasure to reach out and talk to all of you. Right now, the political situation and the climate in the state of Wisconsin is unfortunately chaotic. And it's chaotic because of the level of uncertainty. Governments are supposed to be able to see to it that the citizens have some level of assuredness, of comfort. Even the Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right now, our government on the state level is struggling to find a way, and the Republican legislature has pretty much decided that it will not play a role in helping people become calm, to provide comfort, to provide a consistent way to get through the coronavirus. So, and I think that unsettling feeling is pervading the election completely. I think the agenda for most candidates is to navigate around why or why not are you or your party doing something as it relates to COVID. And I appreciate and I respect and always have respected the fact that we have three branches of government. And when one branch won't meet, that's the legislative branch, when one branch does not take on the responsibility of doing something about COVID, well, the governor is going to do everything that he or she can to fulfill the obligation that we have to protect our citizens in a consistent way. We have very smart people in hospitals, in clinics, in law enforcement, in any area that public safety is of concern. They are able to create protocols to get us through this. Yet the legislature has given them no guidance, no direction. And whenever the governor tries to do it, they say it's beyond his powers. So if you do not assume and do your job when you have power, meaning the legislature, and if the Republicans refuse to come to the floor, then it is chaotic and uncomfortable and uncertain. And I don't think that people really want to live in a state that has so much uncertainty coming from its legislature. And I truly believe that the Republicans have shirked their responsibility in bringing the legislature back to do its job. And then that is confounded by the fact that whenever the governor tries to do his job, it is taken to court. Again, a confusing, expensive, time-wasting procedure when all the people of Wisconsin want is leadership. They want decisiveness. They want to know that they're going to be safe and it's going to be okay. And I just believe that as a legislator, I want to be able to do my job and use the powers, use the abilities that I have as a person in the Senate to convene the Senate and do things that are going to help the state of Wisconsin. And we have not had that. So I guess in summary, again, I'll go back to what I said originally, it's chaos. And I think that people are looking for leadership. They're looking for, I believe, for Democrats to step forward and get the job done.
Okay, so those are sort of opening statements, if you will, and that was designed that way. Now I'm going to get into some Q&A with both of you, and I'll call upon you, and then we'll have some questions filtered through me from the audience. Okay, Senator Roth, I guess, you heard what Senator Bewley had to say, and then Governor Evers in a proposed statement to the Supreme Court to try to get them to take up one of the cases, to take up extending a absentee ballot deadline, and we'll get to those absentee ballots soon. But anyway, he's blaming the legislature. You just heard Senator Bewley blame the legislature for not coming in and meeting and taking these actions or taking more action in terms of COVID. What's your answer to that?
I appreciate Senator Bewley in the position that she's in. And I understand why she's saying what she's saying. I would just respectfully and humbly disagree. The legislature did do its job. We came in when the federal government passed the CARES Act, and it required that the state legislature pass enabling legislation. We came in a safe and effective virtual session, one of the first in the nation to make sure that that happened. What a lot of people don't know, but I'll continue to mention, is that when that federal CARES Act money came to Wisconsin to deal with COVID-19, that $2.3 billion was given directly to the governor of Wisconsin in his administration. Now, had I been in Washington and in Congress, I'm sure when Senator Fitzgerald gets to Congress, if he has his way and they do this again, they will make sure that legislatures do have oversight in how that money is getting spent to make sure that it does get spent effectively in a timely manner. But we don't have that in the legislature. All this power right now rests in the governor to go out and spend this $2.3 billion to help the people of Wisconsin deal with COVID-19. So I'm encouraging him to continue to make those resources and those investments be made here to the people of Wisconsin. But the federal government cut us out of that process. But again, when we had to come in and when we had to act, we did so, and we did so in a decisive manner. And then I would also just counter and say the legislature is continuing to work, as it has all year. Even though we're in the midst of an election in the Senate, half of our members on each side are up for standing for election. The Assembly, of course, all of them. But the committee process is still working. And you saw that last week with JCRER, but with other committees as well, tackling the big issues that are happening right now across our state. Senator Van Wangard continuing to work and spearheading just everything that's happening regarding supporting our law enforcement here in Wisconsin. So these issues are important. The legislature is working, and we're bringing consensus with people from around Wisconsin, real consensus to produce real results, so that when we convene again after the election in a safe manner, we're able to have something, some real tangible bills that we can pass and present to the governor.
Okay, so I got a couple follow-ups there, Senator Roth, before I go to Senator Bewley. So I guess you just said there, your plan is to meet in the full Senate to meet after the election.
Well, when I said that, I was a bit vague. If you're asking about coming in, is the point of your question the possibility of coming in an extraordinary session?
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened? We were scheduled to come in on March 24th and finish up Senate business. Obviously, we went into our lockdown the week before, and we just not knowing what we didn't know. The prudent thing to do was to postpone that. I look at that as a postponement, not a cancellation. There are about 126 bills that are sitting in the Committee on Senate Organization right now, albeit not all of them have the support to pass. Probably quite a few of them don't. About 30 of those bills are spending bills. I don't think there's an appetite right now, given the state of finances in Wisconsin, though it's better than we had initially anticipated. I think members are going to want to take up spending bills in the confines of the next budget. That being said, you can whittle that down, and there are some important bills that we were intending to pass on March 24th, one of them being the PBM reform to help drive down prescription drug prices, that I think are the kind of bills that I would like to find a way to bring the Senate back in and get members to support coming back in December to pass those kinds of bills to finish up. And I think that it's important to do so because people put a lot of, the hardworking people of Wisconsin took the time to come down to testify on these bills, to make their positions known, and in all the work that went into them. It'd be nice to get those over the finish line if we're able to do that in a safe manner. And I think that is a decision, though, that is going to be made by the next Senate leadership. Those elections don't happen until November 5th, 2 days after the election. So when those decisions are made, that leadership team, I think, will look and assess that. But if it were just up to me, I would like to see a way where we could come in and do some of those prior to the start of next session.
Okay, Senator Bewley, what's your reaction to Senator Ross saying, well, the Senate has been working, it's just hasn't been meeting in full, and that he's open to a lame duck session maybe in December to take up those assembly passed bills?
We can go to the floor anytime. They have the power to do that. There's no reason to wait. There never was. The ability, and I'd like to go back to the CARES Act. Republicans are always the first to say, it's not about the money. It's about empowering people to do things. Whenever we want to have whenever there's a discussion about allocating funds to a certain project or need or something, well, we just need to empower. The governor can only distribute the money from the federal government in very specific areas. It is the responsibility of the legislature to pass the legislation that enables people to make the decisions they need to do to enable decisions to be made about when things open, when things close, how you access testing, where you go. These are all procedural things that can enhance what the CARES Act money has done, but that they have repeatedly refused to do. We deal in policy most of the time. You hear it all the time, don't put policy into the budget. Policy, decisions about how we make decisions. That's the job of government. That's the job of the legislature. And it has not done so because we have not gone to the floor. And there's no reason. Quite honestly, I didn't hear Senator Roth give any reason why they haven't, except that they didn't want to. There are very good bills waiting to be passed that could have been passed in April. One of them is a bipartisan bill that I worked very hard on, and you mentioned Senator Weingart. I worked with him on a bill that would expand mental health care, PTSD, the ability to seek help in extremely stressful situations for our police officers and law enforcement. An extremely important bill. that would allow law enforcement to know that they can get the help they need when they need it and that it will be covered. It is necessary, it is responsible, and it's the right thing to do for law enforcement. Nothing. I mean, we could just go to the floor and do it. Now, that's just an example, and I don't want to, there's many, many other bipartisan bills, important bipartisan bills that are waiting to be passed, that are just put to the side. About waiting for the new leadership, nah, we've had that, we've heard about that. You know, sometimes you pass it on to the next leadership, and then sometimes you do it now. So I won't even be drawn into the back and forth of waiting for the election to do something, and except when it's not going to go your way, and then you want to do it now, like with the Supreme Court. So I won't even go into that particular area. But I do know that we have the responsibility, we have the authority, and we have the critical need to do the things so that people can know that they're going to be safe, that they are going to be able to vote and vote fairly, easily, and that their votes will be counted, and that they can proceed with their lives, have their businesses open, be able to go to school with some understanding that those people that are assigned to be responsible for public health are going to give them a code of some sort, anything. We're code red, we're code blue, so that they will know this is when we need to keep it to 25%. This is when we have to only do things outside. This is when we need to close our schools. Everybody is on their own. Nobody wants to be told we're going to shut everything down. They want to be able to participate in a fair process that lets them know they have a role to play in those decisions. But there's no parameters out there. There's no guidelines for how we navigate a COVID virus.
Okay. So let's go to the. We can come back to some of that. Let's go to the top races now. Senator Bewley, I want to just stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Republicans have control. They've had control since 2011 in the state Senate, and Democrats really haven't been close in overturning that majority. And this cycle, you're defending three major seats. How are you doing on this? The La Crosse seat, the Green Bay seat, and the Western Wisconsin seat. You have two open seats in La Crosse and Green Bay, and then the Western Wisconsin seat with Senator Schachner. How is that going in defending those seats?
I believe they're doing well. I really do. I think that the issues that these three candidates are focused on are the ones that truly resonate with people. Again, it is about healthcare, public safety, and they're doing very well. And on the point that that Democrats haven't been able to gain that majority back, we have gerrymandered maps, and everybody, it's much agreed that there are more seats designed to be Republican than there are seats that are designed to be Democrat. And we have been trying to overcome that, and I think we're doing an excellent job. But I think that if you take, for example, Patti Schachner's seat in the 10th, that is a Republican district. And and then when Sheila Harsdorf left, we had a special election, and I think my Republican colleagues were quite frankly shocked that Patti Schachner won. They were very surprised, and I think we were very, very pleased, because it was an indication that there are people that really do agree with the principles that Patti campaigned on. And now she's got to run for re-election. It is still a constructed Republican district, so it's harder. It's harder for her now with all of the issues that are going around the country and around the state to be able to overcome the fact that it was made to be a Republican district. But I don't count her out, not at all. I believe that Brad Papp in the seat that was vacated when my predecessor, Jennifer Schilling, went to the private sector. I believe he's doing well. And again, I believe that he has an affinity with the agricultural community and with an understanding of the issues that make people concerned about how we respond to COVID. And Jonathan Hansen is the candidate in the Green Bay area for the seat that was held by his uncle, Dave Hansen. Jonathan and Dave are different people. But they hold very, very similar values that resonate with the people of that area. And again, we're pleased with the hard work that he has put in and the hard work of all three of that top tier of protects that we have.
Okay, so Senator Roth, you know, the GOP was going into this cycle trying to get a veto-proof majority, and key to that is getting these some of these Democratic seats. How are you guys doing in that regard?
I think we're doing good. I just want to take a step backward for a second. I know that Senator Bewley, the talking point on the other side has to be that because they're not winning seats, they have to be gerrymandered seats. I'll just go ahead and, you know, the court system all the way up to the United States Supreme Court has affirmed on multiple occasions that these maps were not gerrymandered. We are winning in seats that we maybe don't have a right to be winning in. And just to Senator Bewley's point, they've won a seat in Senator Schachner there in a special election. How is that possible that if it was a Republican constructed seat that a Democrat could win? And it comes down to time and time again, people in Wisconsin vote for candidates and for candidates' ideas. That is how we win elections, by having, I believe, better candidates with better ideas. So to the three seats that you had mentioned, those are the three seats that we are going on offense with. Starting with the 10th Senate District with Patti Schachner. That is a seat that Donald Trump did win by 17 percentage points back in 2016. And our candidate, Rob Staffschild, who's a sitting assembly representative running, he comes from a good part of the district. He's very well known, small business owner, working very hard. We feel really good about that race. We feel real good about how he fits to that district, how he fits to the sporting culture of that district and the hunting culture of that district and to the small business owners. So I think he meshes very well with that, and we feel very good about our chances there in the 10th. In the 30th, that is a district that has always eluded us. It's been a very close district that, you know, Senator Dave Hansen, has won time and time again. And he's a really good retail politician, Dave Hansen is. And now we've got his nephew, Jonathan Hansen, running against our candidate, a Marine veteran. And I really like this just from the political sport of things. I think we've got two candidates who bring different things to the picture. You've got Jonathan Hansen certainly brings his last name of his uncle. I think that is a benefit to him. Our candidate brings his small business experience. He's an attorney. He brings his military experience, Marine veteran. I think that's a benefit to him. And they are both, well, I don't know about Jonathan Hansen, but I can tell you that our candidate is out there meeting people, knocking on doors in a COVID-19 socially distanced, face mask wearing way, making sure that we're responsible, but yet going out there and meeting the people. And we take that race very seriously. And the math again, Donald Trump won that in 2016 by 10 percentage points. So it looks to us like something that is trending for us in the right direction. So looking optimistically at the 30th as well. And then if you go over to the 32nd, this race changed overnight when then Senate Minority Leader Jennifer Schilling resigned. And I think going into, Dan Kapanke was running either way. He was already announced, he was already in, and it was going to be a rematch between him and Jennifer Schilling. And he came close, as you know, last time within 61 votes. I think when she resigned, it really turned that race on his head and gave him an opportunity there like we never could have imagined. There is a vast difference between Brad Pfaff and Jennifer Schilling, not only on their name ID, but on their style of politics. And I can tell you our candidate, Dan Kapanke, probably the hardest working person out of any candidate we have right now running for the Senate Republicans, hardest working. And he's incessantly knocking on doors. His name ID is almost universal. I think he might have a name ID that rivals that of any president before literally. So that is one we're watching with great excitement. That is one that Donald Trump lost that seat. Now, as you know, and as Janet would attest to too, when we look at these races, sometimes for all of the work and the effort of our candidates and for our belief in their superiority on ideas and work ethic and so forth, a lot of it trends with how someone at the top of the ticket is doing, and the presidential race unquestionably will have its effect here in the state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump lost that seat by 4.6% in 2016. Dan Kapanke can win if President Trump comes close to that this time. He doesn't have to win it. He just has to come close to that 4.6%, and Dan Kapanke can make up those 61 votes.
Yeah, before I go back to Senator Bewley there, Senator Roth, I mean, how would you rate your chances of getting the veto-proof majority?
Well, I was saving this because I figured you were gonna give us like make a prediction here at the end. So,
well, I like to change it up here. You know,
okay,
I can't be predictable all the time.
Yeah, I will tell you that looking at where we're at right now on those 3 seats, I do think that the presidential campaign is weighing heavily on our races here. That being said, if President Trump wins the state of Wisconsin, I do believe we'll have a veto-proof majority.
Okay, Senator Bewley, you know, what about the Trump effect here on these races? And do you think they'll get the veto-proof majority?
No, they won't. They won't get the veto-proof majority. I know that. I mean, what is he going to say? No, I don't think we're going to get it. I understand that that's what he would say, but no, that's not going to happen. And the effect of Trump's presidency, I do believe that is effective, but I see it as dead weight. I see it as dragging down their candidates. And when it comes to Kapanke's name recognition, perhaps it is high, but maybe it's high because people are saying, what, he's running again? He has run a lot and lost. And so perhaps the name recognition as one who has never been successful is not the record that they would want him to have.
But this is also a rematch. This is also a rematch, isn't it, between Brad Pfaff and Dan Kapanke?
It is. Yeah, back to 2004, Dan Kapanke won that race. And, you know, Dan Kapanke is, I am telling you, you talk about a candidate fitting his district. That's the man. And yeah, just unbelievable work ethic. I think he would represent that district very well.
Okay, so let's go to some second-tier races here. You know, most of the interest group money and whatnot has been flowing to those first 3 seats we talked about. But there's also, you know, there's the Alberta Darling seat in the Milwaukee suburbs and the Pat Teston seat in Stevens Point area. Let's just go first to Senator Bewley on Senator Alberta Darling. It would seem to be a tough get to topple her.
Not when you look at the demographics of her district and what the issues are for those that are concerned. That district is almost a poster for the suburban woman, the Republican suburban woman who is just turned off and wants to be able to claim a vote of that she can be proud of. And I think that we are seeing a true possibility of getting that seat. And I believe that we are seeing numbers now. When it comes to polls, they are not the be all and end all, but they do give some indication of something. And Trump is way down in that district. One's had him down by 11 points. That's serious. That's a very, very big gap for the Darling district. And we have a candidate that is talking about things that matter: public health, public safety. Am I going to be able to look to the future with confidence? And that is what Neil Plotkin is talking about. And Alberta Darling has been a disappointment to many people when it comes to coming up with fresh new ideas and being responsive to an urgent situation that, as one in leadership, she has not taken charge. And I believe that Neil Plotkin is making a very strong case for a Democratic win.
Okay, what about the Pat Teston seat? Pat Teston beat Democratic incumbent last time around.
Right.
What do you think the situation there is?
Well, I think that, that was a competitive seat in the very beginning, when we knew that that we'd have to have this race, and it is becoming even more and more possible. Of course, previously we had Senator Julie Lassa was there, so a Democrat had that seat. It is a competitive district, and there are some of those around. I'm in a competitive district, and that's a good thing. It is. It's to be able to have a race where people really have to get out there and claim what it is they're running on. And we have a candidate in Paul Petrowski who is doing that very thing. This is someone who has served his country in the Navy. He has been involved in education, and he's been a police officer for Stevens Point. He is everything, and he says all the things that the people of that district are extremely worried about. And he's saying them at a time when Patrick Teston and his party are doing nothing. Again, when you have no evidence that you or your party is coming up with real solutions for COVID, for healthcare, someone like Paul Petrowski, who comes with a very clear commitment to helping people through this and a commitment to make sure that people have access to affordable healthcare, it resonates very much, and this is a winnable seat for Democrats.
Okay, Senator Roth, how's the GOP and your operation doing defending those two Republican seats, the Darling seat and the Teston seat?
Yeah, I'll start with the Darling seat, the 8th Senate District. I will agree with Janet on this point. I think if you were to look at those suburban Senate seats, or so those suburban districts, I think that Democrats, those, particularly in Washington, would think that they could capitalize on. I think the 8th Senate District is that kind of suburban seat. But here's the big difference. They got the wrong candidate. Neil Plotkin is not the guy that's going to come charging into the suburbs and compel female college-educated voters to vote for him. Alberta Darling, however, she is everything that they are looking for. Alberta Darling just happens to be the Iron Lady of the state Senate. And she has shown year after year, not only why she was put on the Joint Finance Committee, but how she has been able to advocate not only for the constituents in her district, but affect change here in Wisconsin. And that, I think, is what is appealing in her candidacy into that demographic of people. So I know this is a race just because of its location in the suburbs that garners a lot of attention. But look at her TV ads. They're absolutely unbelievable, the message that she is portraying out there in her connection to her district. So Alberta Darling is just fine. It's the Neil Plotkin, it's just the wrong candidate in that district. Now, the 24th Senate District with Pat Teston. This is another example of how Republicans were able to win, these districts, which weren't supposed to be districts that we could win, and were able to do so in a way by putting candidates who fit their district well. And Pat Teston is one of those candidates. I can tell you that no senator, I don't believe any senator has worked harder to lock down their district in the 4 years between their elections than Senator Pat Teston. And he's had programs where he goes to work for a day in all different jobs across his district, getting to know the people, getting to know the businesses, getting to know how government hurts and helps them. And he's been able to establish those relationships. Not only that, this guy, I fear for the man. I think he's losing too much weight. He has been around his district now twice, knocked on the doors in his district twice, and it's just the middle of October. So this is a man who takes his job very seriously. He's going to win. I'm telling you that Pat Teston is going to win his reelection.
Okay, what's the sleeper race out there that I didn't mention that we ought to be watching? Senator Bewley, what's the one that you're saying, aha, don't forget this one?
I would, and you're going to be surprised, I would go back to Patti Schachner. I really would. Talk about fitting your district. She's a pro-choice bear hunter. I mean, you're not going to find anyone who matches her district. She's lived there all her life. She's raised 6 kids. She knows the district in a way, and she's a medical examiner or a coroner, if you would know, for her county. She sees a side of life that has informed her in a way that I think make her the perfect candidate. And I know that she, for example, would expand Medicaid right away. Something Alberta Darling could have done all along and never did. And so something about being a leader in the issues that matter. Healthcare matters. Expanding Medicaid, accepting our money is something that Patti Schachner has been fighting for. I think those are the kind of issues that are going to have Patti Schachner win.
All right, what's your sleeper race, Senator Roth?
First, Patti Schachner voted against covering people with pre-existing conditions. I'll just say that. I was there on the Senate floor when it happened, and I was kind of shocked by it. I don't really have a sleeper race because I think if you look at the races we're all focusing on in Wisconsin right now, I think we've been pretty open about where we're going after. Again, I guess my sleeper pick would be that I really do believe we will have, President Trump wins Wisconsin, we're going to have a veto-proof majority.
Yeah, you're suggesting, Senator Roth, that the Trump is hurting Republicans in certain areas, though. So, am I right? Am I interpreting that correctly?
I'm suggesting to you right now that if you look at the polling, the Marquette polling has him 5 to 6 points down right now. Of course, they had him that going in October, going into Election Day too. So, yeah, I think, but yet he won the state. So if Donald Trump wins the state of Wisconsin, it will mean that he's garnering the kind of support outside of Milwaukee and Dane County, which incidentally is all the races we're talking about here, that he will have garnered the support in those places. Our candidates, yeah, I do think our candidates are going to outperform President Trump. But that being said, him winning the state, doing better than what the polling suggests right now, puts our candidates in a winnable position here to secure the veto-proof majority.
Okay, so I think this is indicative of how Democrats and Republicans are talking in campaigns these days. Senator Bewley says healthcare. You say economy, right? I mean, this is so what's the most important issue? I mean, it seems to me that they're linked.
If I'll just jump in real quick here, but I will tell you that this election has been like unlike really anything other. People talk about the unprecedented time that we're in right now, in that, the word has been used, I think, over and over to the point where it's losing its significance. But I can tell you from the polling that has been done going back to June of this year and onward, it changes every week. And it all depends on what's happening, the national narrative right now. So absolutely, I think COVID is the #1 issue right now in Wisconsin. But if I went and took you into the month of June, when there were the protests and the riots here in Madison, maybe not riots, but violence, where they were pulling down statues and breaking windows, then that issue overnight becomes the #1 issue that's on the people's plate for a month. Certainly when the governor's shutdown order was in place, the economy and people losing jobs was the #1 issue. So they all have relevance, but without question, COVID, healthcare, safety and security, support of law enforcement, the economy, those are, depending on when you look at it, the most important issues in this election right now.
Senator Bewley, which one's the most important?
Well,
the healthcare or
obviously,
the economy?
Well, I think COVID covers both. If we had policy in place and a way to respond to COVID, it would give people assurance for both their health care and for the economy and for businesses. If businesses can be open, if they know what they're supposed to do, what exactly are they supposed to do and when, and we can't enforce it, we don't know. You go from one place, one county to another, there's a total different attitude. We need to find a way, and that is what people want. They want assurance of some predictability, of some idea that somebody's in charge and is going to be able to make their lives less stressful. And I think that that holds true both with healthcare and having access to COVID-related care, and also just in general, that they're going to be confident that they'll be able to have access to affordable healthcare in the future.
So let's talk about, you talked about the economy, and then, there's a stimulus bill or bills that are faltering in Congress. And Senator Roth, you mentioned about the CARES money that was distributed by, really solely by Governor Evers. How is he doing on that, and how has it been helping your constituents and the people around the state?
Well, the different reports that have come out have shown that he's not spending that quickly enough. And I've talked to whether it's people in education, whether it's people in law enforcement, that money it's pretty broad. You can spend that money if it's connected to providing relief because of COVID-19. So we could be spending that money right now to make sure that people in rural communities whose kids are at home right now and they need that bandwidth to make sure that their kids can learn virtually. I've talked with members of our schools up in my area, and they want that in, even though I'm from the Appleton, Enum-and-Ash area, I have a rural component to my district that has difficulty with access to broadband. And they would like to see that money flow to the school districts so that the school districts could in turn empower the parents here to get internet that would allow their kids, high-speed internet that would allow their kids to function. And so yes, he's got the control of it. I would love to see oversight. I know the Audit Bureau has done an audit of that. I think there's more work that the governor can do. We will, in the state legislature, regardless of what they do in Washington, if they're able to strike a deal here in the near term, if they do it shortly after the election, when they pass something that requires that we in turn pass enabling legislation at the state level, we will come just like we did in April, in a safe way, come in and make sure that, as we did for the unemployment insurance for the people of Wisconsin, we'll make sure that whatever we need to do so that those benefits flow, that it gets done.
Okay, Senator Bewley, how is Governor Evers doing on distributing this money?
Well, I can assure you that no money is going to be left on the table. I mean, the money will be allocated, and every day we find new portions of it are being distributed to communities. And I don't fault him on making sure that we spend the money absolutely in the best possible way. The other thing, though, that Senator Roth mentioned, and I do want to react to a little bit, is broadband. There are communities where no money is enough unless you pay it 100% for some of the internet providers to go there. The broadband grants are very effective, but broadband grants will not work if there is no provider who will go. They basically say, you can't pay me to provide service there because their book of business demands a certain return. So they will not go there. And we do not have a way, and that is where it's policy. We need to find a way to provide internet where the current providers refuse to go. And right now, if they refuse to go there, we're left. They are left without the resources. So interestingly enough, we need to make some policy changes so that we are able to find providers of internet.
Well, there is a governor's task force on that, and I think that there is a lot of people pushing for that. You're just saying it's not pushing hard enough.
It's not pushing hard enough, and since Governor Evers has been in office, there have been task forces, and that is usually, it's a helpful way to go, but it's slow. And when you know the answers, sometimes you don't need a task force for everything. If you've got reasonable, good, strong legislation, get it passed. And a task force is a way of highlighting how serious the problem is. But in order for that task force to work, we have to pass laws. We have to pass legislation that's going to implement what the task force recommends.
Okay, here's a question that has come in about the unemployment insurance. You talk about the economy. I'm paraphrasing now. You talk about the economy, but this unemployment insurance, some people still have been waiting and waiting. Senator Bewley, a lot of this criticism is falling on the governor, and he dismissed he forced out his first DWD secretary. What's the situation there, and what can you tell people who are still waiting for checks from earlier this year?
Well, I think that first of all, it is so much better than it was, and I will admit, and the system was overwhelmed. There's just no question about it, and of course, we're going to go back and forth, Roger and I, on this, but the DWD did have an antiquated system. It was very, very outdated, and it needed to be rebuilt. We needed a whole new format, a whole new platform. Having said that, they went and hired hundreds of people. In mandatory overtime, they did it. It did not satisfy everyone. I'm the first to admit it, but we are at a point now where they are much, much better. I believe they're caught up. And of course, we are still getting more new applications. So people are applying, and of course you have to wait a bit. But yeah, that was very unfortunate. And I know that Caleb Frostman is gone. I have every expectation that we are going to be able to, now that we've gotten over this huge surge of new applications, that we are going to be able to give the people of Wisconsin the service that DWD owes them.
What can the Republican Senate do about this?
Well, I can tell you that what has happened is an absolute train wreck. And Caleb Frostman's a nice guy, but I think he was the wrong guy to lead that agency. And I hope they get it back on track. This is one of those things where, as a leader in government, as the executive branch, you have the ability to move people around, and you gotta have the mindset you're going to do whatever you can with the power that you have, the lawful power you have, to make progress. And it was clear from the beginning that they had not done it. So what I've been doing, what my legislative colleagues have been doing is, our phones, and I imagine same with Senator Bewley and Democrat colleagues as well, that we've had people, and they continue to call us. Now, it was more back in the beginning than it is now, but reaching out because they haven't been able to connect with DWD. I just had someone that I spoke with last week. He actually had the opposite problem. Somebody went and filed a claim again using his name and his information, a false claim that we had to go and fix. But the point is, absolute train wreck. Thankfully, legislators, I've had success, and I imagine other Democrat and Republican leaders have had success when they've stepped in to help their constituents. So my advice to anyone right now is, Governor Evers works to get this straightened out, is to talk to your legislator. So if you live in my district or wherever you are, call your legislator. For whatever reason, we're able to go and help people. And I know if you've been struggling and you haven't gotten your benefits, this is the world to you. And you don't need government failing you at this time. So
What about fixing the antiquated system?
Well, that's certainly something we can discuss, particularly as we go into this next budget here. I'd be happy to talk about that. But the point is, he had an agency. You've got to figure out a way to get it done. I'm sorry. And that's why at the end of the day, even Governor Evers realized that he had to fire his DWD secretary because it was unexplainable. So yeah, we can, we can cast blame at this or at that, but at the end of the day, you've got the responsibility, you've got the tools to do it. There's like 35,000 state employees. Okay, take off the 10,000 who are corrections and work in corrections. You're still looking at about 25,000 state employees. You're telling me that we couldn't figure out a way to get these people working on this issue? So this is something that the governor is going to have to look at. But yeah, as we go into the next budget, if that becomes the way, fixing that system, I'm happy to look at that. We did an audit. I think 97% of the phone calls that were going in there weren't even going through. It was absolutely a disaster. And I think the governor made the right move in getting rid of his DWD secretary. And I'm hopeful that we can work together to make sure that this problem gets sorted out here for the people of Wisconsin.
Okay, we're kind of running out of time here, and I want to finish with, about election security. Should people be worried about their ballots, about casting their ballots, about getting them counted, about mailing in their absentee ballot or doing it in person or going to the polls? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of angst, and of course, the state's divided, right? More Republicans want to go vote in person, and more Democrats seem to want to vote absentee. But should people be worried about their ballot? Let's start with Senator Bewley.
No, they shouldn't. We have a system in place that has been working. We know that voter fraud is almost non-existent in our state. Election fraud, now that may be something different, but when people cast their vote is safe, secure, and it's counted. The problem is the level of uncertainty that I believe it's from President Trump. He wants everyone to question the integrity of their own vote. And I think that's very unfortunate. I believe that people have a right to have faith in their ability to vote without intimidation. And their vote is safe. It will be counted fairly. You have opportunities to vote in a safe way, early, by mail, or in person. And I think that to cast these conflicting messages about someone stealing your vote is really unfair. And it is, again, part of the almost desire of some Republicans to create chaos, to make it confusing, so that people are left in a state of distress. And I believe that that's an unfortunate thing to do to the voters, and it is not a reflection of the integrity of the people who are involved in accepting your ballots.
Okay, before I go to Senator Roth on that, Senator Bewley, are we going to know the winners when day breaks on November 4th?
I think that the winners are most of them, yes. I think that most of them we will. Obviously, even in the current system or the system we had before, some races were too close to call. But I believe that we will have most of our elections winning by a majority that they will be able to declare winners either that night or the next morning.
Yeah, I'm referring to the counting of absentee ballots, which can't take place until after the polls close. Okay, Senator Roth, should people be worried about the integrity of the ballot?
People in Wisconsin should not be worried. We have a very resilient, a very safe, and a very effective voting system here. We give people, the resiliency that we have right now allows people to vote by absentee ballot. It allows people to early vote approximately 2 weeks before Election Day at your municipality, and it allows people to show up and vote on Election Day. And I think that's wonderful. The chaos that comes around election times always starts when one group with a particular interest goes to a court and has an unelected judge change the rules of the election. The truth is, our elections officials, both at the county and the municipal level, and then the poll watchers and the poll workers who are there, they're very well trained. They know how to do their job. The only thing that causes chaos is when in the 11th hour, they change the rules on what they need to do. We have a very well-established set of guidelines here in Wisconsin. Because of the ruling in the 7th Circuit, that is going to continue, barring something happening at the state Supreme Court, or at the, appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. So people in Wisconsin can feel good about that. Nationally, I'm not so sure. I think there's going to be some chaos out there. You've got states mailing ballots to every household. You've got people not requiring stamps on the return stamps on the envelopes to be counted. They could come in late. I think you could see problems around the country, but the people of Wisconsin got to know that here in our state, there is integrity in our voting system, and they can have faith that the vote that they're sending in is going to get counted, and that in Wisconsin, we're showing the nation how to do it right. Getting to your last question, can we expect the results? I do believe that we're going to know the Wisconsin. I don't think we're going to know nationally, but I do think that we're going to know the Wisconsin results very late into the night, early into the next morning on November 4th. But we will know in a rather quick time compared to the rest of the country.
All right. Well, I want you to do a virtual handshake, because if we were doing this in person,
We
you'd
do
have
fist
to,
bump?
yeah, there you go. All right. So good luck to both of you, and good luck to your candidates. I really appreciate you doing this, continuing this tradition. You're good sports. Thanks for participating. Okay, that brings us to a close today. Thank you for audience for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, for this. Hush Blackwell, American Family Insurance, Walmart, XL Energy, ARP Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin Hospital Association. Really couldn't do it without you. Thank you for sponsoring this series of events, which usually have taken place at the Madison Club, but we're doing virtually now. Also want to remind you, of course, about our 2 upcoming DC events on next Thursday, a week from today, and November 12th. You can find out about those at wispolitics.com. You can also track all these court decisions and court filings through the Wisconsin, the WisPolitics subscription service. So this is it for today. Thank you again to Senate President Roger Roth and Senate Minority Leader Janet Bewley. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.